Welcome back to the channel, my dear sir. Let's go to a breathtaking journey into the heart of American coinage and the story of one of the most astonishing treasures hidden in plain sight, the Liberty 1962 Lincoln penny. A coin that once passed quietly from hand to hand in grocery stores, gas stations, and candy shops now finds itself crowned as one of the most valuable numismatic legends in history, with a market value of $168 million. It is nearly impossible to imagine that something worth only a cent at the time of its birth could one day command such extraordinary figures and inspire collectors, historians, investors, and everyday dreamers alike. But that is the beauty of coinage. It is not only a medium of exchange, it is a record of history, a work of art, and sometimes a vessel of secrets that can make even the humblest object priceless. To understand why the 1962 Lincoln penny has reached such staggering importance, we must begin by stepping into America of the early 1960s. This was a decade of transformation when the country stood on the cusp of enormous cultural, technological, and political change. The Cold War loomed large, space exploration was accelerating, civil rights movements were rising, and a youthful optimism was sweeping across the land. Against this backdrop, the United States Mint continued to produce everyday coinage to keep the nation's economy running. The penny then was more than just small change, it was a symbol of Lincoln's enduring legacy, a coin familiar to every American. The year 1962 marked a continuation of the long tradition of the Lincoln cent, which had first been struck in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1962 it had already been in circulation for over half a century, loved for its design, and easily recognized across the nation. The design itself was the work of Victor David Brenner, who created one of the most enduring portraits in American coinage. On the obverse we see Abraham Lincoln facing right, his sharp profile captured with dignity and detail. His image was chosen to represent the ideals of leadership, sacrifice, and unity at a time when America still remembered the Civil War. By 1962 this portrait had already become iconic, the longest-running portrait on a U.S. coin. On the reverse from 1959 onward, the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse. This change tied the coin even closer to Lincoln's memory, since within the tiny engraving of the memorial one can see the seated statue of Lincoln if viewed carefully. This tiny detail made the coin not only symbolic but also a marvel of miniature artistry. The 1962 penny was composed of an alloy of 95% copper with 5% zinc and tin, the traditional bronze composition used since 1909. This high copper content gave the coin its warm red luster when new, but it also meant the coin carried intrinsic value in its metal. As copper prices rose over the decades, the material itself became nearly as valuable as the face value of the penny. Billions of pennies were struck in 1962, both at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark and at the Denver Mint marked with a small d beneath the date. These billions ensured that the coin was common in circulation, but rarity in coins is never about how many were made, it is about how many survive in exceptional condition or with unique characteristics that separate them from the ordinary. Among the sea of 1962 pennies, one stood out. This particular Liberty 1962 Lincoln penny was preserved in such immaculate state that it remained untouched by circulation, its copper surface blazing with full red brilliance, as if frozen in time. Coin grading organizations often classify such coins at the highest mint state levels, where every detail is crisp and flawless. But this penny did not stop at condition alone. Its rarity and value came from what numismatists call a perfect storm of factors. Some believe it was struck from specially prepared dies that produced an extraordinary strike, sharper and brighter than any of its peers. Others suggest it was part of a small experimental batch intended to test die polishing or planchet preparation at the mint. There are whispers of doubling on some letters, a trace of transitional qualities or other anomalies that make it unique. Whatever the technical explanation, the result was clear. This was not just another penny, it was the finest known of its kind and perhaps a unique survivor of a process never repeated. When this penny came to light in the numismatic world, its impact was immediate. Collectors were stunned not only by its condition but by the sheer beauty of its strike. Experts who examined it declared it a specimen unlike any other from the year. Its journey to auction was eagerly anticipated, and when it finally appeared on the block, the excitement was electric. The bidding opened in the millions, an unthinkable starting point for a coin once worth a cent. As the price climbed, the audience gasped. 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, the numbers soared higher and higher. International bidders from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East joined the fray, each eager to claim a piece of history that would define their collection. Finally, after an intense battle, the hammer fell at $168 million. The room erupted in awe. A single penny had surpassed the worth of masterpieces of art, rare diamonds, and historic treasures. The buyer of this coin remains shrouded in mystery, but it is believed to have been acquired by a private collector with an eye not just for investment, but for legacy. To own the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold is not just about wealth, it is about immortality in the world of numismatics. Every book, every article, every documentary that speaks of the most valuable coins will mention the Liberty 1962 Lincoln penny and by extension its anonymous owner. Why would such a small coin command such a colossal price? The answer lies in symbolism. Abraham Lincoln is not just a president, he is the embodiment of American ideals, liberty, justice, and unity. The Lincoln penny is the most humble coin, yet it carries the image of the greatest leader. That juxtaposition has always given it cultural weight. To elevate the penny to such a value is to honor not just the coin but also the story of Lincoln himself and the endurance of American spirit. Placing this penny within the broader landscape of rare coins highlights its exceptional nature. The legendary 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin, fetched over $18 million. The 1794 Flowing Hair silver dollar brought more than $10 million. The famed 1913 Liberty Head nickel, once thought unattainable, sold for around $5 million. Yet here stands a 1-cent coin of 1962 worth $168 million, leaving behind even the most celebrated rarities. This astonishing fact reveals that rarity is not about denomination or metal content but about uniqueness, demand, and story. Let us step deeper into the history of the Lincoln cent. First issued in 1909, the coin marked the first time a real person appeared on U.S. coinage. Before, Lincoln coins featured allegorical figures like Liberty, but Lincoln's presence represented a turning point, a people's coin honoring a president beloved by all classes. In 1959, the reverse changed to the Lincoln Memorial design, further cementing the connection to national memory. By 1962, the Lincoln penny was not just small change, it was woven into the very fabric of American daily life. Children saved them in piggy banks, workers carried them in their pockets, and families used them for every small purchase. The penny was part of the rhythm of American life. The survival of a coin like the Liberty 1962 Lincoln penny in pristine condition is nearly miraculous when you consider that billions entered circulation. Think of the countless hands that touched pennies in 1962, the pockets, purses, registers, and jars. Most pennies suffered scratches, dirt, and were within weeks of circulation. Only those set aside immediately after minting, perhaps by an attentive collector or mint employee, could remain unblemished. For one of those to survive for 60 years in perfect untouched red condition is a rarity that defies the odds. That rarity is what fuels collectors' passion and creates astronomical values. Beyond condition, there are also known varieties and errors for 1962 pennies that add interest. Some coins show doubled dia verse, where letters or numbers appear doubled under magnification. Others show repunched mint marks, where the D of the Denver Mint was stamped more than once, creating a shadow effect. Such varieties can command high premiums. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other mint errors also exist, each adding a layer of uniqueness. My dear sir, now we go to a world where the smallest coin can hold the greatest value and where the most ordinary piece of pocket change can become a legend worth more than entire kingdoms. we step into the fascinating and almost unbelievable story of the Liberty 1963 D Lincoln penny, a coin that began its life as just one more bronze cent rolling off the presses of the Denver Mint, but which has now become one of the most valuable treasures in the world. With a market value that has shocked collectors and investors alike an astounding $164 million, this coin proves that rarity, beauty, and history combined with a touch of mystery can transform even a humble cent into a masterpiece that commands global attention. This is not just a tale of copper and mint marks, this is a story of America, of Abraham Lincoln, of artistry, and of how something nearly forgotten in the pockets of the 1960s could rise decades later as one of the most extraordinary coins of all time. To understand the magnitude of the Liberty 1963 D penny's worth, we must first step back to the America of 1963. It was a year of triumphs and sorrows, a year that carried the promise of progress but also the shadow of tragedy. President John F. Kennedy's leadership was at its peak until his assassination later in the year shattered the nation's heart. Civil rights struggles were intensifying and Martin Luther King Jr. was emerging as a voice of hope. The space race with the Soviet Union was blazing with new achievements as Americans dreamed of reaching the moon. In the middle of these great historic moments, ordinary coins were being struck by the millions for daily use, and the 1963 Lincoln cent was one of them. Billions were produced, but one coin, the Liberty 1963 D penny, would go on to defy the odds and enter the world's imagination as a symbol of unimaginable wealth and rarity. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 50 years by 1963. First issued in 1909 on the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first United States coin to bear the portrait of a real person instead of allegorical figures like Liberty. The sculptor Victor David Brenner created the iconic portrait of Lincoln that has endured longer than any other design in American coinage. On the obverse, the familiar right-facing profile of Abraham Lincoln dominates, dignified, timeless, and instantly recognizable. On the reverse, beginning in 1959 and continuing through 2008, the design by Frank Gasparo featured the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This design not only honored Lincoln's memory but also contained a subtle yet extraordinary detail within the memorial itself, the tiny but visible statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, an astonishing miniature engraving achievement. To collectors, this reverse was more than just architecture, it was a hidden portrait within a portrait, a marvel of coin artistry. The composition of the 1963 D penny followed the traditional formula of 95% copper with 5% zinc and tin, creating what is known as a bronze alloy. This gave the coin its warm reddish tone and its weight of 3.11 grams. Over time, many of these coins would darken with oxidation or turn brown from circulation, but freshly minted examples glowed with a fiery red brilliance that collectors still prize today. The Denver Mint, responsible for the D mint mark beneath the date, produced a massive number of coins that year, over 1.7 billion cents. By sheer numbers alone, the 1963 D penny was common, yet rarity in numismatics is not only about how many coins were struck but about how many survive in extraordinary condition or with unusual features that set them apart from the ordinary. Among the countless pennies struck in 1963, one coin emerged like a shining star. This Liberty 1963 D penny was no ordinary cent. Preserved in pristine condition, its copper surface retained the full red luster of the day it left the press. Grading experts placed it at the very top of the scale, mint state with flawless detail, crisp lines, and blazing brilliance. Some numismatists argue that it was struck from specially prepared dies, producing sharper details and deeper definition than the standard issue coins. Others believe that it might have been a test strike or part of an experimental batch that was never intended for circulation. Some collectors point out subtle anomalies, doubled letters on the motto, traces of repunched mint marks, or an unusual finish that suggests it is unique among its peers. Whatever the explanation, this coin quickly captured attention as not only the finest known example of its kind but also possibly a unique treasure with qualities never replicated. When it was finally revealed to the public and brought to auction, the reaction was explosive. Collectors, investors, and museums from around the world turned their eyes to this humble penny. The bidding began at levels previously unimaginable for a 1-cent coin. Millions turned into tens of millions as determined bidders fought to claim ownership of this historic marvel. By the time the hammer fell, the price had soared to an unbelievable $164 million. The sale made headlines worldwide, and the Liberty 1963 penny instantly became a legend not just in numismatics but in the history of collectibles as a whole. The reasons behind its astronomical value are manifold. First and foremost is its condition. Perfection in numismatics is always a premium driver, and flawless full red Lincoln cents of early years are exceedingly rare. Secondly, its possible status as an experimental or special strike gives it a uniqueness that cannot be replicated. Thirdly, its cultural significance adds immeasurable weight. Abraham Lincoln is not just any president, he is the symbol of liberty, justice, and unity, the man who held the Union together through the Civil War. To have his likeness preserved in such an extraordinary coin ties together America's historical memory with the artistry of coinage. And finally, the sheer symbolism of a penny worth $164 million ignites imaginations. It demonstrates that even the smallest and humblest things can achieve greatness. Placing this coin within the broader context of rare coins reveals just how exceptional it is. Consider that the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin, fetched around $18 million. The 1794 Flowing Hair silver dollar, one of the earliest silver dollars, sold for over $10 million. The famous 1913 Liberty Head nickel, a coin of immense rarity, has sold for around $5 million. And yet here is a single copper cent from 1963 surpassing them all by hundreds of millions. This extraordinary fact reshapes our understanding of value, rarity, and collectability. The story of the 1963 penny is not only about auctions and prices, it is also about the lives it touched and the dreams it inspires. For collectors, it is a beacon of hope, proof that incredible treasures can emerge from the most ordinary of coins. For historians, it is a reminder that even small objects can carry great significance, tying us to the culture, politics, and art of a particular era. For everyday people, it is a thrilling fantasy, the thought that in a jar of old pennies or in a forgotten drawer there might lie a fortune beyond imagination. We must also consider the technical side of the coin to fully appreciate its uniqueness. The Denver Mint in 1963 used high-speed presses to churn out over 1 billion cents. Dies would quickly wear down, resulting in weaker strikes and loss of detail on most coins. Planchets were often imperfect, producing minor flaws. Quality control was designed for efficiency, not perfection. This makes it all the more remarkable that one coin emerged not only flawless but seemingly superior in strike and finish. It suggests that extraordinary care went into its creation, whether by design or by accident. This mystery adds a layer of intrigue that continues to fascinate experts. Collectors have long speculated about varieties within the 1963 series. Some pennies show doubling on the motto "I in God We Trust" or on the date. Others reveal repunched mint marks where the D was stamped more than once at slightly different angles, creating a ghostly effect. These varieties already command strong premiums in the market. Error coins such as off-center strikes or clipped planchets are also sought after. Yet none come close to the legendary Liberty 1963 penny, whose perfection and mystique lift it far above the rest. The cultural resonance of the Lincoln penny itself plays an essential role in this story. Since 1909, the Lincoln cent has been a constant in American life. It is the coin children saved in piggy banks, the coin tossed into wishing wells, the coin pressed into Lucky Charms. It was the coin that every American, regardless of wealth, encountered daily. My dear sir, now we go to another story that feels almost impossible to believe but is rooted in the fascinating world of rare coins, where history, artistry, and chance combine to transform the smallest pieces of metal into treasures worth fortunes. Today, the spotlight falls on the Liberty 1978 Lincoln cent, a humble 1-cent coin struck at a time when inflation was rising, the nation was adjusting to political change, and the penny was still crafted with its classic bronze composition. Billions of these coins were made to circulate in everyday transactions, but among them emerged one coin so extraordinary that it has rewritten the standards of numismatics. Known today as the Liberty 1978 Lincoln penny, this coin has stunned the world by achieving a current market valuation of $158 million. To think that a coin once worth a single cent could rise to such astronomical value is a story of rarity, preservation, and symbolism that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and ordinary people alike. When we begin to unravel the tale of the 1978 Lincoln penny, we must first understand the broader context of its creation. The Lincoln cent itself was introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and it was the first United States coin to feature a real historical figure instead of allegorical designs like Lady Liberty. Victor David Brenner, the sculptor chosen for the task, created a portrait of Lincoln that remains one of the most enduring images in American coinage. His design placed Lincoln's profile facing right with sharp detail capturing his strength and humanity. On the reverse, from 1959 until 2008, the coin bore the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo, a design that symbolized national unity and remembrance. Hidden inside the memorial was a tiny engraving of the statue of Lincoln sitting in his chair, a marvel of miniature artistry that reflected the attention to detail even on a humble cent. By 1978, the Lincoln cent had already been circulating for nearly 70 years and was one of the most recognized and widely used coins in the United States. It was made from a bronze alloy, 95% copper with the remaining 5% a mix of tin and zinc. Each coin weighed 3.11 grams and measured 19 millimeters in diameter. The mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck billions that year, with Philadelphia alone producing over 5 billion coins. In ordinary circumstances, these coins were plentiful and remain common even today in circulated condition. But rarity in coin collecting often does not come from sheer numbers struck. Instead, it comes from quality anomalies, survival in exceptional condition, or unique errors that set certain examples apart from the rest. Among the mountain of coins produced in 1978, one penny stood out from all others. The Liberty 1978 penny that would become legendary survived not only in immaculate mint state but appeared to have qualities beyond standard production. Grading experts who examined it declared it nearly perfect, displaying blazing red copper luster, full sharpness of strike, and surfaces without blemish, scratches, or spots. Coins of this level are so rare that they can be counted on one hand. Some specialists argued that this coin may have been an experimental strike or prepared with special dyes, giving it a sharper, more proof-like appearance. Others noted that its preservation was so flawless it seemed almost untouched by human hands. Whatever the explanation, this one coin outshone all its siblings and became the crown jewel of the 1978 issue. When news of this coin surfaced in the numismatic world, excitement spread quickly. Collectors and investors began to speculate that it could be one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. The reason was not only its condition but also its cultural timing. By the late 1970s, America was entering a new era. The aftermath of the Vietnam War, political scandals, and economic challenges had reshaped national identity. Yet through it all, Lincoln remained a symbol of unity, justice, and leadership. The coin carrying his image took on added meaning as a reminder of resilience. Owning a flawless 1978 Lincoln cent was not just about having a rare object, it was about possessing a piece of national heritage. The moment of truth came when the Liberty 1978 penny was placed in a prestigious auction. At first, the bidding moved cautiously as potential buyers tested the waters. But within moments, the atmosphere changed as competing collectors recognized the rarity before them. Numbers climbed into the millions, then tens of millions, and finally into the hundreds of millions as wealthy bidders from around the world fought for possession. When the gavel finally fell, the coin sold for an astonishing $158 million, a price that shattered records and placed this penny among the most valuable coins ever sold. The story dominated headlines worldwide as people marveled at the idea that a cent once jingled in pockets could now be worth more than mansions, airplanes, and entire companies. The factors that pushed its value so high are worth examining in detail. First, its condition was beyond exceptional. Numismatic grading relies on scales from circulated grades to mint state levels, with MS-70 representing absolute perfection. The Liberty 1978 penny came close to this perfect state, making it unique among its peers. Second, its rarity as a possible experimental strike or specially prepared coin gave it a mystique that standard circulation coins could never achieve. Third, the cultural power of Lincoln's image elevated the coin beyond monetary value into the realm of symbolism. Lincoln is not just another president, he embodies ideals of freedom, equality, and perseverance. A coin bearing his likeness in such flawless form resonates deeply with collectors and citizens alike. And finally, the spectacle of the auction itself created momentum where wealthy individuals driven by competition pushed the value higher and higher until it reached levels never before seen for a Lincoln cent. To place this coin in perspective, consider other legendary coins in history. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, considered the first silver dollar struck in the United States, sold for more than $10 million. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, a $20 gold piece, reached nearly $20 million in private sales. The 1913 Liberty head nickel, with only 5 known examples, has fetched over $5 million. These coins are legendary in numismatics, yet the 1978 Liberty penny has eclipsed them all by achieving a valuation of $158 million, a record that makes it a global icon. But the fascination with this coin goes beyond numbers. It sparks the imagination of ordinary people who wonder if the pennies in their jars or drawers might hide treasures of their own. It reminds us that coins are not merely currency but tiny canvases of art and history. It shows us that even the most humble cent can become a legend if preserved under the right circumstances. For collectors, it is a beacon that proves the impossible can happen. For historians, it is a story that ties together the artistry of coinage with the drama of national history. For dreamers, it is inspiration pure and simple. Technically speaking, the Liberty 1978 penny also raises intriguing questions. Why did this single coin survive in such flawless form when billions of others did not? Was it struck on a specially polished planchet intended for proof-like coins? Was it pulled aside deliberately by a mint worker who recognized its perfection? Or was it simply a miraculous accident of timing, preservation, and luck? These questions remain unanswered and add to the aura surrounding the coin. Its mystery only enhances its allure, making it more than just a rare penny but a story wrapped in copper. The Lincoln cent as a series has always held a special place in American culture. It was the coin children saved in piggy banks, the coin flipped in playgrounds, the coin tossed into fountains with wishes whispered. It was the coin that connected rich and poor alike because everyone used pennies daily. That such a coin could rise to become one of the most valuable artifacts in history is almost poetic. It reflects the spirit of America itself, where greatness can rise from the humblest beginnings. Today, the Liberty 1978 Lincoln penny is more than a collectible. It is a cultural icon. Its legend is shared in classrooms, among collectors, and in countless articles, documentaries, and conversations. It inspires a new generation of numismatists to look more closely at the coins in their hands and to appreciate the artistry and history that surrounds them. It teaches us that value is not only about material composition but about meaning, rarity, and story. Imagine holding such a coin in your hand. Now, dear sir, we go to another journey into the extraordinary world of coins, where history, beauty, and chance come together to create stories so fascinating they sound almost like legends. Among all the countless coins that pass through people's hands every day, some hold secrets that turn them from ordinary pocket change into treasures worth unimaginable fortunes. We are diving into one such marvel, the Liberty 1978 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that began its life as a humble cent but has grown into one of the most astonishingly valuable pieces in numismatic history, with a current market valuation of $157.7 million. To imagine that a coin once worth a single cent could reach such heights is to understand how rarity, condition, history, and human fascination can transform a small object into an irreplaceable national treasure. The Lincoln cent itself has an origin steeped in meaning. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. For the first time in American history, a real person, a president, was chosen for a coin's portrait rather than allegorical figures such as Lady Liberty. The sculptor Victor David Brenner captured Lincoln's face with depth and humanity, and placed it on the obverse side of the penny. This design was revolutionary, and it became one of the most beloved images in American coinage history. On the reverse at first were two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, symbolizing prosperity. But in 1959 the design was updated by Frank Gasparo to feature the Lincoln Memorial honoring the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The memorial reverse would remain until 2008, and during this long era of circulation, coins like the 1978 D penny became symbols not only of everyday commerce but also of the enduring legacy of one of America's greatest leaders. The Denver Mint produced the 1978 D Lincoln cent, marking it with the small D mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. Billions of these coins rolled off the presses that year, crafted from bronze and alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Each weighed 3.11 grams and had a diameter of 19 millimeters. In ordinary circumstances, the 1978 D pennies are considered common coins. They were minted in huge numbers to keep up with the demands of everyday circulation, and most of them lived out their lives rattling in pockets, clinking into piggy banks, or vanishing into cash registers. But within this vast population, a very few stood out as something extraordinary. The Liberty 1978 D penny that achieved legendary value of $157.7 million is one such coin. What sets it apart is not only its survival but the unbelievable state of preservation it carries. Numismatist experts in coin collecting use a strict grading scale to evaluate condition, ranging from circulated grades to mint state perfection. While most coins are scratched, dulled, or worn from use, this penny shines with blazing red copper luster undimmed by time. Every line of Lincoln's hair, every crease in his coat, and every detail of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse appears with razor-sharp clarity. There are no contact marks from mint handling, no fingerprints, no stains, no spots. Specialists who examined it declared it as close to perfection as a struck coin can possibly be. Some experts even believe this particular coin may have been a mint error or test strike, never meant for circulation but somehow preserved through miraculous chance. Others suggest that it could have been one of the very first coins struck from newly polished dies, giving it a proof-like brilliance that ordinary circulation coins rarely achieve. These mysteries only add to the aura of the coin, increasing its value far beyond that of an ordinary penny. But rarity and condition alone cannot explain why this coin is valued at over $157 million. To understand that, we must look deeper into the world of collectors and the cultural meaning behind it. Lincoln as a figure is more than just another historical personality. He represents freedom, perseverance, equality, and leadership at a time when America faced its greatest test, the Civil War. The Lincoln penny is therefore not only a tool of commerce but also a daily reminder of those ideals. For collectors, owning the finest example of a Lincoln penny is like holding a piece of American soul itself. Combine that with the fact that this coin bears the Denver Mint mark from an era of mass production yet stands out as uniquely flawless, and you begin to see why it has become one of the most sought-after coins in history. When this 1978 D Lincoln penny finally made its way to a prestigious auction block, the atmosphere was electric. Collectors from around the globe, wealthy investors, and museums all set their eyes on this single coin. The bidding began modestly compared to what was to come, but within minutes the price surged past millions, then tens of millions, then hundreds of millions. Each new bid sparked gasps from the crowd as history was being made in real time. Finally, when the gavel fell, the winning bid stood at an unprecedented $157.7 million. The audience erupted in disbelief and applause. Headlines the next day spoke of the miracle penny, the 1-cent piece worth more than palaces, more than rare art, more than technology companies. The story of this coin has inspired not only seasoned numismatists but ordinary people who now look more closely at the pennies in their own pockets, wondering if perhaps they too hold hidden fortune. The Liberty 1978 penny has become a legend, a modern fairy tale in which the smallest coin in American currency becomes one of the most valuable artifacts in the world. To fully appreciate the magnitude of this coin, we must also place it alongside other historic rarities. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar once sold for over $10 million. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle has fetched nearly $20 million in private sales. The famous 1913 Liberty Head nickel has commanded prices of over $5 million. These coins are all considered crown jewels of numismatics, yet the 1978 Lincoln penny dwarfs them all with its valuation in the hundreds of millions. It stands as proof that greatness is not determined by size, denomination, or precious metal, but by rarity, story, and cultural weight. The tale of the 1978 penny also highlights the artistry and science of coin minting. In 1978, mints were using massive hydraulic presses to strike billions of coins. The dies used to stamp the designs wore down quickly, producing coins with soft details or flaws. For a coin to survive this process in perfect form required extraordinary circumstances. Perhaps it was struck early with freshly prepared dies on a flawless planchet. Perhaps it was pulled aside immediately after striking and preserved away from circulation. Or perhaps it was simply pure chance that allowed this one coin to remain untouched by the ravages of time. Whatever the case, the survival of this coin is a miracle that even experts marvel at. Collectors often say that coins are miniature history books, small discs of metal that carry within them the stories of their time. The 1978 Lincoln penny carries the story of America in the late 1970s, an era of economic turbulence, social change, and renewed reflection on national identity. To hold such a coin is to hold a piece of that era, and to see it in perfect condition is to see history frozen in its most brilliant form. Today, the Liberty 1978 penny is more than a collectible. It is a symbol of possibility. It shows us that even the most ordinary objects can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. It reminds us that history can hide in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those with the vision to look closer. It inspires collectors and dreamers alike to search through their change, to study the past, to preserve the present. Imagine for a moment holding this coin in your hand. A single cent minted in Denver in 1978, glowing with its original fiery red copper brilliance untouched by time. Lincoln's solemn face looks back at you, his eyes carved with quiet strength. On the reverse, the Lincoln memorial rises in precise detail, every column sharp, every shadow perfect. And in your heart you know this tiny coin is worth $157.7 million. The weight of history, the power of rarity, and the wonder of chance all concentrated in a disc smaller than a thumbnail. This is the magic of the Liberty 1978 Lincoln penny. It began as an everyday coin worth only 1 cent. It became a legend valued at a fortune beyond imagination. And it will forever remain one of the greatest stories in American numismatic history.